Very good afternoon to all of you. So today we are going to start our class 4, and mainly we are going to focus our talk today about the water column, the hydrostatic equilibrium of liquid, the pressure, how the pressure vary with the height, and then we are going to talk about real life application like differential manometers and how differential manometer, the principle of differential manometer, how does it works. So we're going to talk into details. So let's start first. As I said, let's brief about the fluid characteristic what we have talked in the previous classes. So I think as all of you know what is incompressible and compressible fluid is. If a fluid density doesn't change, or maybe it's a moderate change happens with temperature and pressure, the fluid is said incompressible. And if it is opposite, if the density changes is significant, then I think all of you know that fluid is called compressible fluid. So let's move to the next slide. As you can see, what happens generally for a real life fluid or real fluids or perfect gas, if you held a weight against some parallel plates by some means, like let's say some glue, what is going to happen to that weight? The weight is going to exert a force due to gravity. The weight will try to pull it down, right? As you can see, this is the weight. You held it up by some means using some glue. So the weight is going to drag it down. Okay. So that is going to, the weight is going to exert some sort of shear force, right? This force will tend to make the surface slide past each other, right? The stress in the glue is the nothing but the, so if it is exerting shear force, what will be the stress? The stress will be the force by area, that is known as shear stress, right? An ideal fluid offer no resistance to change in shape. Therefore, it is called frictionless and incompressible. Whereas a perfect gas is not an ideal fluid because it is an incompressible fluid. So what happens? The density, it is constant for an incompressible fluid, but for density varies or changes with increasing pressure or decreasing pressure for compressible fluid. Like the water, okay. The isothermal coefficient of compressibility for water at 0 degrees is given by beta minus 1 over V del V by del Pt. So actually what does it say is that this beta actually is the isothermal coefficient of compressibility. So if a volume change happens with pressure, right, for water, the negative sign is been given because if pressure increases, volume decreases. Similarly, the vice versa, if volume increases, the pressure decreases, and it is happening at a constant T. So that parameter beta is actually you can determine for real fluids. It's known as minus 1 by V del V by del P. The negative sign is coming due to the one parameter increases, the other parameter decreases. When there is a, what are the two dependent parameters? The parameters which are changing, differential parameters are volume and pressure, whereas temperature is constant. So compressibility is a measure of the, as I said, is a measure of the change in volume of a fluid under an external force. Similarly, you can determine for a fluid's elasticity. How do you determine elasticity? Because for solid, you know, like stress strain curve, you can determine how the stress is varying with increasing strain. But what happens if it is a fluid? Then how will determine the elasticity? The formula is this, that the amount, the del P, that is the change in pressure, which is related to the small increment or decrement in volume with the initial volume. So that is the reciprocal of that term. The pressure actually changes proportionally del V by V. The negative sign is increasing because pressure increases, volume decreases, and the proportionality constant is called minus the E. The E is the modulus of elasticity, where del V by V naught is the relative change in the volume brought about by a pressure increase del P. So these are actually all the parameters we have talked about. Let us look into a real life example. How do you calculate? Okay. So for, let's say I'm giving an example here. For gases, obeying the equation of states. What is the equation of states? That is PV equal to RT. So how we will calculate? To calculate the thermal compressibility and the coefficient of thermal expansion, that is alpha. PV by RT can be written as P over RT equal to 1 over V, right? Or P over RT equal to rho, because the mass is constant. So rho by V is equal to 1. So rho 1 over rho equal to, or 1 over V is equal to rho. So if you take the differential, if you take the derivative of the differential, partial differential, del rho by del p at t, del rho by del p at constant t, it will be 1 over RT, okay, or del rho by del Tp. So actually you're differentiating with respect to P, keeping temperature constant. Here you are actually differentiating with T, keeping pressure constant for this parameter. So del rho by del Tp, it will be minus 1 over RT squares. Okay. So therefore, the isothermal compressibility, which is given by beta, the formula I have already shown, yes, previous slide. Either it can be, because see, mass and volume and density are inversely proportional. It was minus V naught del V naught by del T. So I think if you just look into this equation, beta was minus 1 over V del V by del Pt. So that can be same as beta equal to minus 1 over rho naught rho del P by del P at T. So this is the formula, okay, for beta. Just similar, same formula, you are actually replacing one with the, because density and volume are inversely proportional, so you are replacing it each time. So so what is del rho by del Pt? Del rho by del Pt is 1 over RT, and this rho naught is actually the initial density, right? So rho naught, if you just put this value 1 over rho naught, will be RT naught by P naught. It's cancel each other, the terms, and it become 1 over P naught. So that is the inverse of the initial pressure is the coefficient of thermal compressibility for a gas obeying the equation of stored PVRT. Similarly, coefficient of thermal expansion can be given by alpha. Alpha is minus 1 over rho naught del rho by del T naught P. So just del rho by del T naught P. I think this term it will be P, 1 over rho naught is RT naught P naught, and this term is P naught by RT naught whole square, okay, and this becomes 1 over T naught. So in the troposphere, so this actually equation is cancel each other, and this becomes like this. And in the troposphere, the weather domains, actually one call is coming, just hang on, I'll coming just 1 minute, okay. All right, I'm back. Sorry for the interruption. Anyway, so in the troposphere, the weather domains, the temperature T at a height h above sea level in meter is given by, this is just an expression I have given, T equal to 15 minus 0.0065 h. Actually, what happens with the troposphere, as you increase, as you go up, the air becomes thin, right? And temperature decreases. So actually, temperature and height are related to each other. So as you move past, away from the surface, or you go up, then actually temperature drops. So that is what the expression is. Okay. So the temperature is at the sea level is given 15 degrees C, and the T is in the degree C. So what happens? This expression I have given so that you know that as you move up, the temperature decreases due to the height. So actually pressure, because the air becomes thin. Okay. So let's move to the next slide. This is very important slide. Slide number 5. Hydrostatic equilibrium. So why it is important, hydrostatic equilibrium? Because if you have a static column, okay, at any particular point, at any particular point in the horizontal plane, the pressure is constant. Okay. What I'm trying to say, I have a better picture. Next slide. Go to slide number 6. You see, this is a column, static column. We have filled up with some liquid. Okay. Now at a certain cross section, the pressure is constant. Okay, but pressure is varying along the z direction or along the vertical direction. Okay, so that is why it's called hydrostatic equilibrium, because the pressure at a particular plane is constant, but that pressure varies along the height. Okay, so here we are considering a liquid column. Okay, this is the liquid column. I'm just putting my this is from starting from here to here. Okay, this is my liquid column, which is parallel to the horizon or parallel to the surface at a height. This is the height ZB. So the bottom plane from the surface is at a height ZB and the top plane at a height of ZA. Okay. So what happens at a very minimum distance along the Z height, let us assume that is dz. Okay. How that liquid column remains stationary? Okay, this is the liquid column. So if you assume that liquid column remains stationary, there must be some force balance happening on it, right? So what are the forces acting on this liquid column? There are three forces. The most important forces is the height of the liquid or the pressure head, right? The pressure, any liquid, any static liquid, like we have overhead tank in our room, right? In our home. So that overhead tank has some water, right? So that water has some pressure head, right? That's why if you open the tap, water from the rooftop comes to your, comes to your room, right? So that is the pressure head, right? Due to the pressure head, the water flows downward direction. So similarly, if this water column, okay, has some pressure head associated with it, that is the height of the liquid. So that pressure head, and then there is a two pressure. One is the bottom pressure, that is pressure P, which is acting from bottom towards top. Another is the for the small increment of dz, that is the pressure P plus dt, which is acting from the top. So this three, now this is the pressure, and then what is the force? Force will be pressure into area. So if you consider the area is, bottom area is S, so the force will be P plus del P into ds, or P plus del P into S, and the bottom force will be P into S. Okay, so there are three forces. Let us look into this previous slide, what I have just explained to you. In a stationary mass of a single static fluid, the pressure is constant in any cross section parallel to the earth's surface or the horizontal surface, and mass varies from height to height. So what are the assumptions we have made? That cross sectional area of that liquid column is S. At a certain height Z of the column, the pressure is P, and the density of the liquid I have assumption is rho. Okay. So the resultant of all the forces on that small volume of the fluid of height dz or dz, the cross-sectional area S must be 0, right? Because what I'm trying to say that in a resultant of all force, if it is 0, then only the liquid will remain stationary, or the liquid will be remain static at that particular surface. So all the force must be balanced to each other. So at that particular point, the pressure will be 0 because P equal to Px, Py, Pz equal to 0. So what are the forces I just mentioned? The three vertical forces acting on the volume are the force from pressure P acting in the upward direction. I just showed you, right? This is the force P into S, that is acting in the upward direction. The force from pressure P plus del P acting in a downward direction, that is P plus del P into S. So this force, and the gravitational force acting downwards, which is G by Gc rho S dg. So that is the height of the liquid. Now one parameter you see here, G by Gc, lot of students may not be aware of it. Actually, Gc is a conversion term. Okay. Earlier, there used to be a unit called FPS unit. I think all of you know MKS unit, CGS unit, okay, FPS unit. So in CGS unit, and right now people are using SI unit. Okay, that is the most modern unit people are using. And you know the value of G, right? But actually, if you need to convert from two units, one unit to another unit, so that GC term was, this is kind of a normalized factor, okay? GC was introduced. So for SI unit, GC is 1, okay? So that GC become 1, so it's become G. But I use this term sometimes. What happens if you need to convert into FPS units, then GC value will be different, right? So that's why these G by GC terms come. So you can just simply ignore, because if you are calculating or if you are doing calculation in SI unit, the GC is 1, so G by GC become G. Okay, so don't be flustered with this, seeing this term G by GC. This is a common terminology what has been used for conversion from one unit to another. Anyway, so let's move forward, and then so I have just mentioned there are three forces: PS, which is moving upward, and then P plus del dP plus S moving downward, and then the height of the gravitational force G by Gc rho S dg. So this force must balance each other, and the resultant force will be 0. So after simplification, all the terms get cancelled and become dP plus G by Gc rho dg equal to 0. So that equation 1 is a differential form. It can be integrated with the boundary if you apply the proper boundary condition or the limits. Okay, since the height I have considered Z, B and ZA, so this dz term can be integrated between ZB and ZA, and also pressure at the corresponding plane for ZB should be PA and ZA should be ZB should be PB and ZA should be PA. So if you apply this and then if you integrate, so it become PB by rho minus PA by rho, or you can say PB minus PA by rho equal to G by GC ZA minus ZB. Okay, so this is the hydrostatic equilibrium equation. This is very important equation. You should keep it in mind, and it will be useful as you move forward. You will see that a lot of the manometer concept or the pressure, these are all related to this hydrostatic equilibrium. So this is very basic equations. Okay. So I kept this picture from McCabe and Smith books, so that because the previous slide, the picture might not be clear to the student, you can always refer to this picture so that if you want to understand the equation I derived it. Even the same expression is derived in the McCabe and Smith, and you can look into that also. So next is barometric equation. We have already determined this expression, that dP plus G by GC rho dz equal to 0. So that expression we're going to use to calculate barometric equation. Now all of you know, for an ideal gas, the density and pressure is related to this equation, rho equal to Pm by RT, where M is the molecular weight, T equal to absolute temperature. So we are just going to substitute this rho, that is Pm by RT, into that expression, because if you remember, the expression was dP by rho plus G by GC rho dg, right? That was the equation 1. I'm talking about this equation. This equation, okay. Equation 1. dP plus G by GC rho dg equal to 0. So we are substituting rho from the ideal gas equation. So it's become dP by rho G by GC M RT by dz equal to 0. Now you integrate between two limit A and B and the corresponding pressure PB by PB and A. So it's become ln PB by PA minus Gm by GC RT ZB minus ZA, minus can be cancelled. I mean, you can take the exponential, so it's become PV by PA exponential minus Gm ZB minus ZA GC by RT. And you can see I have written SI unit. GC is 1 kg meter per Newton second square, but if it is an pound force, that FPS unit, that is the value is 32.174. So this is actually, GC is useful if you are using FPS units, but no, I think nobody uses FPS units except I think couple of countries. Most of the people use SI unit. You don't need to bother about GC, but if you still want to know, the expressions are given. Okay, so that is the barometric expression. Let's move forward, and then we have to know, I mean, we're going to derive the expression hydrostatic equilibrium in a centrifugal fluid. So if you have a liquid flowing through a centrifugal board, okay, so what happens? The liquid is rotating rotating at a particular axis, right? And if you take the cross section of the liquid, okay, if you just open that the centrifugal field, what happens? The surface is virtually a cylindrical, right? If you just open it, and it's coaxial with this axis, because it's a centrifugal fluid, so it is coaxial with the axis. The pressure drop is calculated over any ring and rotating liquid by following method. So we are actually going to assume this is the axis. At a certain distance or radial distance r, there is a pressure drop at a distance r at a small radial direction dr. We are going to determine how is the pressure drop happens. Okay, the pressure drop is calculated over any ring of rotating liquid by this method, where the volume element of that particular thickness is dr. So we actually consider this dr is the thickness, and at a radial distance r, so the centrifugal force will be omega square r dm by gc. So omega is actually here angular frequency, dm is the mass of the liquid. Okay, we are just putting the angular frequency, mass and radial distance. Okay, r, so omega square r dm, so that is the total force by gc. Gc actually, again, don't need write any gc, but I just put, if you need to do, if you are calculating any other unit, that's why gc terminology comes here. Now if rho is the density of the liquid and b is the breadth, so I'm considering that the density is rho and the breadth of the cylindrical bowl is b. So what happens? The dm will be, the mass of that liquid will be 2 pi r rho B dr. Okay, 2 pi r rho B dr. So if you substitute this dm value here, df will be 2 pi rho B omega square r square dr by gc. Yes, just substituting 2 pi r rho B dr. Okay. So this 2 pi r rho B dr, if you substitute here, this expression becomes like this. And the pressure actually nothing but force by area. Now what is the area? Because we are considering this area. So the area will be 2 pi r, because that is the radial direction, that is the circumferential area 2 pi r, and then multiply by the breadth of that ring, the centrifugal ring. Then if you multiply, so that is the area. So if you df by 2 pi r rho B, it will become omega square rho r dr by gc. Again, you just integrate within two limits, r1 and r2, because here considering r1 and r2 radial direction, and the pressure is P2 minus P2 and P1 and P2 corresponding pressure. So this expression will become P2 minus P1 omega square rho R2 square minus R1 square by 2 GC. Again, GC is not required. The simple term will be omega square rho 2 R2 square minus R1 square if you are using SI. This is how you calculate hydrostatic equilibrium in a centrifugal fluid. Now we will move to the manometer. So what is a manometer is? I think all of you know what is a manometer is. It's a device which is based on the principle of manometer is used to measure pressure accurately. You have to measure pressure, okay? Because pressure varies. If you have two liquids of separate density, one liquid will be rising up compared to the other liquid. By measuring the difference in the height, you can actually measure the pressure, okay? So that is the principle. Actually, this is called Pascal law. If you remember Pascal's law, the pressure at a certain plane should be constant. I think already I have shown you by hydrostatic equilibrium, right? So that using that same principle, manometer was developed, or manometer was devised to measure pressure. If you know the pressure at one point, you can calculate pressure at another point. So manometer is a device which is made of a glass, and it looks like a U-tube. It's a U-shaped card made out of a glass, contain one or more fluid such as mercury, water, alcohol, etc. To keep the size of the manometer to management level, heavy fluids such as mercury are used if large pressure differences are anticipated. So let's look into this picture. This is the manometer. So here actually one side the gas is filled up, another side you see the liquid is filled up, which is heavier than the gas. So liquid rise at a distance height, okay, due to the gas pressure. So since the gravitational effect of gases are neglected, the pressure anywhere in the tank and at position 1 is the same. So what I'm trying to say, based on the principle of hydrostatic equilibrium, pressure at this point 1 should be equal to the pressure at point 2, because this is horizontal to the surface, right? So at a certain surface, certain plane, the pressure should be identical. So that was why I already discussed. But this point, the pressure head will be this much pressure head, which is going to apply on this particular point. So that is the excess pressure. So if I consider pressure at this point P2 and pressure at this point P1 or P atmospheric, so the pressure at this point will be P atmospheric plus rho GH. Why rho GH? Because density of the liquid is rho and height is h, and the gravitational force, the acceleration due to gravity is g. So that is how you calculate pressure. And you can see P2 is P1 given, because I just mentioned you, if this is P1 and this is P2, based on the horizontal hydrostatic equilibrium, pressure should be identical. Okay, I think all of you understood this slide. Let's move again. I think the same thing has been mentioned here, where rho is the density of the fluid in the tube. The cross-sectional area of the tube has no effect. So actually, it suggests that the height of the liquid rise, though it depends on the cross-sectional area or the diameter of the tube, but in the final expression, there is no relation with the diameter of the tube. It all depends on the height of the liquid, which has been either raised or fall, depending on the liquid density is higher or lower. Okay. So I think this is the expression we're going to derive for manometer. Better picture again, I think here a best picture is given. So I'm going to express this, the pressure at this point 1 and pressure at this point PB. We are saying the pressure at this point is PA and pressure at this point is PB. Now here one liquid or fluid is here, which is a density of PA, PB, I'm sorry, PB, and another density liquid and dense liquid is there, PA. So if it is less dense than the PA, then what is going to happen? One end, the liquid is going to rise compared to the other end, right? Due to the application of pressures. So let's look into this. Next slide. Liquid B is immiscible with liquid A. I think I just told you. And it is often in a gas such as air or nitrogen. So let's say liquid A is gas or nitrogen, and liquid B is some sort of, liquid B is some sort of gas or nitrogen, and liquid A is some sort of liquid. Liquid A is some sort of mercury or water. Okay. So what happens? There I have demarcated it at each point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So pressure at this point is PA and this point 5 is PB. Now pressure at 2 and 3 should be identical because due to the hydrostatic equilibrium on a horizontal plane, the pressure should be identical. And I also given you the liquid rise on the right hand column compared to the left hand column by this the amount Rm, and liquid rise the height difference between the top surface, the liquid column given by Zn. So let's look into the expression. Okay. At point 1, pressure is PA. Okay, very good. Now at point 2, pressure will be PA plus the pressure due to this height, right? Because you are applying this much pressure head. So what is this? The pressure at 2? Pressure is 2 PA plus G by GC Zm plus Rm rho B. Why Zm plus Rm? Because this height is Zm plus Rm. If you look into this arrow, this is Zm by Rm, and the density of this fluid is B. So that is why it's called rho B. G by GC Zm plus Rm rho B. Because here actually I have considered fluid B, density rho B. Now by principle of hydrostatic, this is the same pressure at point 3 because point 2 and point 3 are on the same plane. So pressure at point 3 also should be this. Now what will be the pressure at point 4? The pressure at point 4 will be less than by point 3 by the amount of now pressure you are going up. So pressure will be low compared to pressure at point 4 will be less than 0.3, and that amount will be G by GC Rm rho A, because this is the height of the liquid, that is G by GC Rm into rho A. So that much amount less will be pressure at 0.4, and at pressure at 0.5 the pressure will be again less by G by GC Zm rho B, right? That will be the pressure at 0.5. But again by principle at 0.5 pressure I have assumed PB. So if we put together all this, PA plus PA is the pressure plus G by GC Zm plus Rm rho B, that is this pressure, minus Rm rho A, that is the pressure at 4, minus Zm rho B, that is the pressure at P. That will be pressure at B. So this expression, if you simplified, you get PA minus PB, G by GC Rm rho A minus rho B. So that is the expression for the pressure. What you see from this expression, that this is independent of the distance Zm. Zm is the height difference between the top to the bottom. This is independent of Zm, but it is dependent on the difference into the height between two arm or two U-tube arm. That is very much important. This is dependent on the difference into the arm of the liquid between these two arms, that is Rm. And also it is independent of the tube diameter. It is independent of the tube diameter. Okay, this is independent of the tube diameter. So that's how you determine the manometer principle. Let's look into the next slide. I think I have already explained. You can easily look into the book in the Mackay-Smith. The expression is derived. One thing I think in the expression, GC term is not there because in Mackay-Smith, the latest version, the latest revision, all the calculation are in SI units, so they are not using this GC term. Since I deliberately put this G by GC so that if anybody wants to do the derivation in any other units, it's become beneficial, but you don't need to be bothered about it. Now, one more thing I need to stress upon here, the PA minus PB is nothing but the pressure difference or the pressure head, right? Because the pressure head is if you divide it by PA minus PB by, so that is the pressure difference, and if you multiply by P rho G, right, H rho G, so that will be H rho G is the pressure head, right? So if you multiply by H rho G, rho is given, G is given, if you multiply by the height, that will be the pressure head. Okay. Some examples are given, real life examples. I took it from my class note, so Let us solve it. I mean, you can easily look into it, but let me explain it to you. The right limb of a simple U2 manometer containing mercury is open to atmosphere, this side, okay? And while the left limb is connected to a bulb. This is the bulb in which a fluid of specific gravity 0.9 is flowing, okay? The center of the pipe is 12 centimeter below the level of mercury. So this is the center of the pipe. This is 12 centimeter below the level of mercury in the right limb. Find the pressure of the fluid in the bulb if the difference of mercury level in the two limb is 20 centimeter. The two limb difference in the mercury level is 20 centimeter. Given the specific gravity of mercury 13.6. So yeah, very easy. The specific gravity of the fluid is given 0.9. The density will be 900 kg per meter cube. Specific gravity mercury is given 13.6. Multiply that by 1000. Density of mercury becomes 13,600 kg per meter cube. Okay. Weight of the fluid is given. So what is the difference in height? Because this is 20 and this is 12. So that will be 20 minus 12, that is 8 centimeter, or actually 0.08 meter. Now let P is the pressure of the fluid in pipe. So if this is the pressure, this pressure plus pressure at this point will be pressure at this point, because by principle of hydrostatic equilibrium, pressure at a, if this is the, like the line, right? If this is my datum line, this is my datum line, which is actually parallel to the horizontal. So this is my datum line, and the pressure at A and A prime should be same. So pressure at A is P, that is the pressure of the bulb pressure, plus ρ1 G H1, and similarly at A prime the pressure is ρ2 G H2. So what will be the pressure at bulb? ρ2 G2 H2 minus ρ1 G H1, that is, if you take the G common, ρ2 H2 minus ρ1 H1. G, you know, ρ2 H2. ρ2 is, that is the dense mercury, right? So that will be 13,600, and H2 is 20. H1 is what? This is the height, right? H1, because we are considering the difference, right, from here to here. So that will be 8, and ρ1 is the density of that fluid, that is 900. So you put this value, and the pressure you calculate 2.59 or 2.6 Newton per meter square. So that is the pressure at this point now. Okay, you can look into it later. Another problem, I think you should look into, there's a vacuum thing, I think here. A simple U2 manometer containing mercury is connected to a bulb in which a fluid of specific gravity 0.8 and having a vacuum pressure. So due to the vacuum pressure, you're sucking it, right? A negative pressure. So mercury here, mercury will dip. You can see this problem, mercury was rise because it was in atmospheric pressure. Here the mercury has fallen. Why it has fallen? Because of vacuum pressure. That is a negative pressure, right? Vacuum pressure means from atmospheric pressure you're drawing out the air, right? So you're going to negative pressure. So having a vacuum pressure is flowing. The other end of the manometer is open to atmosphere. So this is at the open atmosphere. Find the pressure in the bulb. If the difference in mercury level in the two limbs is 40 centimeter, so this two level is 40 centimeter, and the height of the fluid in the left from the center of the bulb, is 15 centimeter given, right? 15 centimeter below. So this is 15 centimeter below, this is 15 centimeter, and this is 40 centimeter. So now let's assume this, everything I think already you know. Difference of mercury level 40, that is 4 meter. Height of the liquid in left limb is 15 centimeter, 0.15. So what will be that now? If we again, it is the datum line, pressure will be this pressure plus the height of this liquid, right? So if this is the pressure, because there are two different liquid, bulk liquid and this mercury. So ρ2 GH2, that is for the bulk fluid, plus pressure at the bulb, plus ρ1 GH1, that is the mercury. The pressure due to mercury is equal to 0 because here no pressure is there, right? It is 0 because this is empty. So if you equilibrate this, P equal to minus, both this term will go to the right hand side and it will become ρ2 G2H2 plus ρ1 GH1. ρ2 is given 13.6 into 10 to the power 3. H2 is given 0.4, I think, 40 centimeter is 0.4 meter, and it is given 0.15 meter. So you put this value and then you calculate 54,543. Now you look into it, this is a negative sign given. The reason is very simple. This is a vacuum pressure or gauge. Vacuum pressure is always negative. That's why since this bulb is in the vacuum pressure, that's why it's become negative. Okay. Now, as I said, I derived two expression, I mean in numerical. Let us look into details. So pressure is actually defined as a normal force exerted by a fluid per unit area. Unit is Pascal. What is, you all know, Pascal is 1 Newton per meter square. Okay, and 1 megapascal 10 to the power 6 Pascal. So these are common terminology. If you have to know the atmospheric pressure, that is 1 bar. That is actually equal to 10 to the power 5 Pascal or 100 kilopascal or 0.1 megapascal. Now, 1 atmospheric pressure is 101 325 Pascal. That is called almost like 101.325 kilopascal, which is close to 1 bar. That's why I say 1 bar is 1 atmospheric pressure, but 1 bar is little higher, 1.01325 bar. But again, you can consider 1 atmospheric pressure is actually at 1 bar. Okay, that bar pressure. Now, this is different terminology being used. Now, what is actual pressure? Actual pressure is given a position called the absolute pressure, and it's measured relative to a absolute vacuum, that is absolute zero pressure. So absolute pressure means like if you inflate a soccer ball, okay, or inflate a cycle tire, right? So pressure, you pressurize that thing, right? The soccer ball, you actually pressurize the soccer ball. If cycle tire is pressurized condition, so the pressure is higher than the atmospheric pressure. So that is a absolute pressure plus the gauge pressure. So that will be the, atmospheric pressure plus the gauge pressure. That will be the absolute pressure. Absolute pressure is actually the pressure at a certain position. So that can be positive, that can be negative also. So most pressure measuring device, that is pressure measuring device, is pressure gauge, are actually calibrated and to read zero in the atmosphere. So if you take it in the atmosphere, it will be zero, and they indicate the difference between the absolute pressure and the local pressure. So if absolute pressure is above the local pressure, atmospheric pressure, it will be a positive pressure. So that is actually called also gauge pressure because you measure it with the pressure gauge. And if the absolute pressure is below the atmospheric pressure, that is going to be vacuum pressure because that will be a negative pressure. Let's look into this. So the expression is given gauge pressure, that is absolute pressure minus atmospheric pressure. Why? Because a football may be pressurized condition, that is in 140 kilopascal, 3 bar. Let's say I do 3 bar or maybe 1.5 bar. But atmospheric pressure is 1 bar. So what will be the gauge pressure? 1.5 minus 1, that is 0.5 bar. That is actually absolute pressure minus atmospheric pressure. That is gauge pressure. Similarly, vacuum pressure also, atmospheric pressure minus absolute pressure. But here absolute pressure is below the atmospheric pressure, so it will be a negative pressure. So absolute pressure is the real pressure into that particular system. Okay, that can be either positive if it is a gauge pressure, or that can be negative if it's a vacuum pressure. Let us look into here. This is most nice example given. This is my absolute zero pressure, and this horizontal dotted line is my atmospheric pressure. Okay, so if I measure my absolute pressure is this position, so it is below the atmospheric pressure, so it will be a negative pressure. Okay, because this is my atmospheric pressure, but my absolute pressure you can see at this position. So this will be my vacuum pressure, because vacuum pressure will be then P atmospheric minus P absolute. So P vac will be P atm minus P absolute. So look at P vac is P atm minus P absolute, that will be a negative pressure. Similarly, if my atmospheric pressure is this, my absolute pressure is way higher than atmospheric pressure. So what will be my gauge pressure? The excess pressure. The gauge pressure will be P absolute pressure minus P atmospheric pressure. P gauge pressure will be P absolute pressure minus P atmospheric pressure. But there has to be positive pressure, like in a case of a football, okay, or in case of a cycle tire. So that is actually pressurized condition. Same expression I have in my class note I have given. You can read it. Same thing what I have just told you. Now, if I take point 1 to be at the free surface of a liquid open to the atmosphere, where the pressure is the atmospheric pressure P atmospheric, then the pressure at a depth h from the free surface will be the height of the liquid. So here actually pressure at the position 1 is atmospheric pressure. But what will be the pressure at P2? Because of that height of that liquid, right, or the height of the liquid, that has to be added. That's why if you go down to the water, you feel pressurized condition, right? Because that atmosphere, that height of the liquid is going to act upon you, right? That's why you feel, and that's why you feel pressurized. Anything if you submerge in water, it will be in a pressurized condition. So the pressure will be atmospheric pressure plus height of the liquid, that is rho GH or rho GH. So that will be the total pressure. So that will be the base pressure, because that is the excess pressure, right? That is the excess pressure you are applying on that substance or on that object. Okay. Let's look into this. So how do you calculate pressure? You can just for fluid whose density change significantly with the elevation, relationship for the variation of pressure with the elevation can be given by dP by dG by rho g, because density is changing, density is not constant. So with height, as I think air, I given an example here. So actually the relationship is pressure over height equal to rho g. So as we move up, the density decreases. The negative sign increases, the pressure decreases in an upward direction, because as we move up towards upper direction, one parameter increase. When height increase, the pressure decrease. Okay. Also, the variable pressure can be given by del P, P2 minus P1. Just take the integration. Take the del dg this side and then integrate between 1 to 2 rho g dg. Dg the height, two different height, right? You can calculate the pressure difference. The negative sign again, because P1 is greater than P2. As you move up, P1 at sea level pressure is high, right? As you go up, the pressure decreases. That's why negative signs come. Similarly, pressure is independent of the shape of the container. The pressure is same at all points on a given horizontal plane in the same fluid. So these are example you can see. This is a very nice example. I think all of you, if you have visited any garage for washing your car, you must have seen how these people takes the car up, right, and then clean it from the bottom. This is actually the hydraulic mechanism. You know, like if you apply pressure, the pressure is nothing. Force is nothing, P1 into A1, right? If you apply same pressure, the similar amount of hydraulic pressure, if you have a hydraulic oil, is going to be applied on this, which is same as F1 P1 equal to F2 P2, or P1, since P1 is P2 same at the horizontal plane. If you apply at a small area, you can at a large area, the pressure will increase. So F1 by A1, F1 by A1, F2 by A2, right? Or F2 by F1 equal to A2 by A1. The area ratio A2 by A1 is called the ideal mechanical advantage of the hydraulic lift, because here A2 is greater than A1, so the force will be higher. So that this will take the car above to that height. Okay, I think you all know this is pressure, the Pascal's law, the basic principle. Now I have given some examples. I think you can look into it. If you have doubt, we can discuss tomorrow's. I think very straightforward. Just pressure head you need to calculate. It's very simple. Okay. You can I think just calculate the pressure heads. Another problem is given. Okay, I think how much slide is left? Okay, I think another 5 slides left. Let's continue it. Same problem, you have pressure at this point and this point, two different points you have to calculate. You can look into this numerical. It's very easy, straightforward. Now, I think okay, I think couple of slides left. Let's finish it. Let's look into these examples for gauge pressure and vacuum pressure. We just talked about how gauge pressure and vacuum pressure varies, like absolute pressure related to the atmospheric pressure. So the same principle can be applied to a YouTube manometer. If it is in a gauge pressure, so pressure, if this is my datum line, right? And H1 is the height of the liquid at the above the datum line, right? And H2 is the height of the liquid above the datum line in the right limb. Okay, H1 in the left limb and H2 in the right limb. Rho1 is the density of the liquid here, and at the left limb, and H2 is the density of the heavy liquid at the right limb. Okay, so pressure above A in the left column will be, so above this datum line, what is the pressure? P plus rho1 Hg, G plus H1, and pressure above A1 in the right limb will be rho2 GH2. Okay. So this two pressure, if it is equilibrate, then P will be rho2 GH2 minus rho1 GH1. So that's why you calculate P for a gauge pressure. That is difference in the pressure head from the right limb to the left limb. Now, if it is a vacuum pressure, then the liquid is going to be depressed, so liquid is going to rise. Actually, this line will be here. Okay, I think by mistake it has gone up. So this line will be here. This is my datum line. Okay, just make sure you look into properly. I think I'll give you better picture next class I have this, I'll give it to you. Anyway, right limb you see this, and so right problem you see this liquid has risen in the left limb. So whatever the pressure above A in the left limb, pressure of that bulb plus liquid column of this H1 height and liquid column of pressure column of this two height, that is H2. So P plus rho1 GH1 for this height plus P2 plus GH2 for this height. and pressure at this point is 0. So if you just equilibrate all this, and then the expression will be P equal to minus ρ1 GH1 plus ρ2 GH2. So this is become negative because of the vacuum pressure. This will be positive. Okay, this is the gauge pressure. Let's look into this expression. I think example, a U-tube manometer. What is the gauge pressure and absolute pressure at a point? Okay. What is the gauge pressure and absolute pressure at a point 3 meters below the free surface of a liquid having a density of 1.53 × 10⁻³ kg per meter cube? If the atmospheric pressure is equivalent to 760 millimeter of mercury. Specific gravity of mercury is given, density of water given. Density of the liquid is given 1.53 × 10⁻³. Atmospheric pressure at 760 millimeter of mercury, that is 0.76 meter of mercury. So atmospheric pressure is given by ρ0 GH0. You just multiply this with the specific gravity of, because mercury is given. The pressure head in terms of mercury will be 13.6 into 9.81, and that height, that is 760 millimeter. That is the atmospheric pressure. Now pressure at a point which is the depth of 3 meter. It was saying at the 3 meter depth. That will be for the liquid density 1.53 × 10⁻³. Sorry. And then height 3, and then multiply by acceleration due to gravity. That will be coming 450.28 Newton per meter square. That is the gauge pressure. Okay. So the total absolute pressure will be atmospheric pressure plus gauge pressure, because if you remember, gauge pressure was atmospheric pressure minus absolute pressure, right? So if the absolute pressure will be, gauge pressure was absolute pressure minus atmospheric pressure. So absolute pressure will be gauge pressure plus atmospheric pressure. If you remember, these two pressure you add it, so it will be coming 146.424 Newton per meter square. So this is actually nothing but you have to calculate two pressure. One is the gauge pressure, another is the atmospheric pressure, and then you need to calculate the absolute pressure. So that is actually total pressure. Absolute pressure is total pressure. You have to consider atmospheric pressure and gauge pressure. Next problem, there are two parts. A U-tube manometer is used to measure the pressure of a water in a pipeline which is in excess of atmospheric pressure. The right limb of the manometer contains mercury and is open to left limb, right? This is right limb. Determine the pressure of water in the main line if the difference of mercury level in the limbs of the U-tube is 10 centimeter. Okay, given, and the free surface of the mercury in the level is the level with the center of the pipe. Free surface is at the center of the pipe. If the pressure of water in pipeline is reduced to 9810 Newton per meter square, calculate the new difference in the level of mercury. Case the arrangement in both cases. So there are two cases. This is first case. First case, you have to determine the pressure, right? You have to determine the pressure of the pipeline, right? So actually, difference of mercury given 10 centimeter. So what will be the pressure? Pressure of water in the pipeline, that is pressure at point A, and similarly at pressure at point B. That is the same in the horizontal line, right? Because pressure at point B and pressure at point A should be same. Hence pressure should be equal to pressure at C. But pressure at point B is pressure at A plus pressure for the water, right? So PA, this is pressure at PA plus height of the liquid, that is 1000 into 1000 is the density of water, then G, and height is given 10 centimeter, that is 0.1. That is the total pressure, right? And now let me. So this is actually pressure at this point, PA plus 981 Newton per meter square. And pressure at point C is the pressure at D plus pressure due to the 10 centimeter of mercury, right? So this is pressure same, right? 0, right? Pressure at D is 0. But for this height, it will be height of the mercury, the pressure will be multiply this by 13.6 into 1000 plus 9.81 into the height 0.1. So that will be total will be 13,341. So this pressure and pressure PA plus height of the water should be equal. So this and this should be equal. If you go to the next slide, so if you equilibrate these two, and then the pressure will be 12,360.6 Newton per meter square. That is the pressure at the bulb. Now second case, he said pressure decreases by 9810. So if pressure decreases to 9810, what will happen? The mercury will depress from the right limb and mercury will rise into the left limb. You understand what I'm saying here? Initially, its pressure was 12,360. Now pressure has been decreased by some amount, right? Pressure has decreased to 98. What was the number? 78. Pressure has decreased to 9810 Newton per meter square. So then, in that case, there will be little bit rise into the liquid in the left limb. That we have considered that left limb height increase in the rise is x. So this height will become now 10 minus x. Similarly, this liquid is going to dip 10x distance. So it will be now. So now this will be my datum, right? This will be my new datum. Now it has risen x and falls x right limb. So this height now it will become 10 minus 2x because x deep, x rise. Initially it was 10, now it will now become 10 minus 2x. And this will become 10 minus x. So similar expression, only thing is that now you have to derive it in terms of x. X is the right and the left limb. That will be the same in the fall in the right limb as I mentioned. So pressure, now my new datum line is B star C star. Pressure as B star will be same as pressure as C star. Now B star pressure is pressure at A plus pressure due to 10 minus x centimeter of water, which is same as pressure at D star, that is 0, plus pressure due to 10 minus 2x centimeter of mercury. So if I pressure at A is PA plus rho 1 GH1 plus pressure at D star plus rho 2 GH2. Now it was said that pressure decreased to 9810 and rho 1 GH1. Now H1 will be 10 minus x centimeter divided by 100. I'm converting into meter. PD is the open surface pressure, it is 0. Rho 2 GH2, rho 2 is 13,600, that is the density of mercury. And H2 will be now new height, that is 10 minus 2x divided by 100. So you get an expression of x and you solve for x, you get a I think you get an expression for x and then you solve for x become 8 centimeters. So that is how you calculate how much. So if pressure decrease to 9810, what will be the rise or drop into the level of mercury? So that means 8 centimeters is going to rise in the left limb and 8 centimeters is going to dip in the right limb. That's how we calculate.